Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? It is a game day. That's right. The Seattle Kraken are taking on the Colorado Avalanche in Denver. Let's talk about it. We talked about Makar, we talked about McCann. Today, we're going to talk about how the Seattle Kraken need to adjust, if at all, going in to game 5. That and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, you say, Seattle hockey fans, welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, recording this live. So if you are in the YouTube chat, feel free to drop a comment and I will put it up on the screen for you. Thank you as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily routine. And to the everydayers, you know, we're experimenting with some things. Our first ever playoffs, we're finding ways to incorporate our YouTube channel a little bit more, including we will have a live watch along where you will get my unfiltered reactions to the game. We'll still be doing some things on playback, but I think this method has really caught fire, so to speak. So join us right here again tonight. Game 5 happening. I hope you get a nap. I don't think I'm one. After I finish recording, I've got another event to go to, but you know what? It's exciting. Let's talk about game 5. You don't care about my sleep schedule. Here we go. This is what we've got coming up April 26th. That's today, game day. Ball Arena, Denver, Colorado. The series is tied, as you can see, 2 games aside. The amazing Jordan Eberle helped us square the series at 2 wins aside. Game-winning overtime goal on a power play. Fantastic. The home and away record is split. You see Justin Schultz holding it down for us. He has collected a point in all 4 games. We're going to talk about some interesting stats coming up a little bit. And Mikko Rantanen, definitely a player to keep an eye on. The power play for the Seattle Kraken actually performing better than the Avalanche power play. We've been talking about that the last few days. The penalty kill also very good for Seattle. I talked about it entering this series, that the special teams game was going to be important. Another thing that's super important, and we figured it would be, is goaltending. And yes, both goaltenders have been pretty solid. We've gotten a pretty solid performance from Philip Grubauer. We've talked about this before, but a few things defensively, defensive breakdowns that we need to clear up. And speaking of clear up, clear the bodies in front of the net for Philip Grubauer. I talked about that in the last game. I felt that, or was it game 3? It might have been game 3, where I felt that Philip Grubauer is too preoccupied trying to clear bodies that he ends up not seeing a laser shot come in. All right, so you saw the stats. Now I want to take you over to, we're going to go to the game essentials, game 5 essentials. This is over on the Seattle Kraken website. I believe it's Bob Condor bringing us the game essentials. Hold on, that's post-game analysis. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's go to the game essentials here. And yes, Bob Condor, here we go. Morgan Geekie returns. We knew about that. We lose, though, Jaren McCann. We talked about that yesterday. Jordan Eberle, talked about him. And I love this. Jaden Schwartz has been super excitable throughout this playoffs, and I think it is the most adorable thing. There's a picture, I don't have it handy right now, but of him just in game 1 looking up, just, hold on, he's just He's just looking up in awe at the scoreboard as the Seattle Kraken are getting ready to win game 1. His excitement is palpable, and I love that. But this goes on to say that those two in particular were jumping around like young bucks right after that game-winning goal. But overall, the power play, we've got 3 power play goals, I believe now. Scored 1 in the game 3 loss and then 2 in the game 4 win. So yes, power play starting to heat up. Felt that it was actually Schwartz, if I'm not mistaken, that got that first power play of the series for Seattle. Maybe felt that, although in that loss, a 6-4 loss, that might have spark plugged things. That's what Eberle said. But I think another thing that really sparked things, and this alludes to the second game essential. I talked about it yesterday, but it's worth repeating because it's such a big storyline. Cale Makar. Cale Makar suspended for this game now. A lot of people have a lot of opinions. I also had someone tell me that he did not intentionally hit Jaren McCann, to which my question is obviously, how do you look around, wind up, and accidentally hit someone? Now, if you mean that he didn't intentionally harm Jaren McCann, I would agree with that. I don't think, for the life of me, I don't get the sense that Cale Makar is that kind of guy, but it was a late hit. It was undisciplined and unprofessional, and it was intentional. He did mean to make contact with Jaren McCann. Did he mean to end his series and hopefully not anything worse than that? I don't think so. But I've said it once, I've said it a time and time again. The Colorado Avalanche were looking to frustrate Jaren McCann the whole series, and well, now he's out of the series. So Cale Makar will sit this game. Now, how is that going to impact Seattle? Well, if you listen to Matty Beniers, it really shouldn't impact them at all. And I love that. He obviously knows that Cale Makar is an important piece, but he also knows that there are other players that are going to have to step up. And guess what? The Seattle Kraken are also down a player. Now we know Ty Cartier is going to be the player that potentially is in the lineup. He skated at morning skate today on that top line with Matty Beniers and Jordan Eberle, who spoke to media immediately after. And after the morning skate, yes, we did have morning skate, which I was super excited about. But let's hear what Matty Beniers had to say just about coming in to game 5 on the road against Colorado.
We're a good starting team, and we need to keep that up. Into the night, especially coming into their building, in a really big game. They're going to come out hard, and we just got to, match that and hopefully, come out harder and, stick to our game, not worry too much about what they're doing.
They rely on their big guys a lot. One of them is out. Is this something where you're going to take advantage of that and put them on their heels and try to wear them down? You've been doing that every game, but more important tonight without him.
Yeah, losing him, definitely hurts them, but I think they got, a really solid team around, around that, and a lot of really other good players. So I don't think it's too much of a focus for us. I think we're going to, stick to our game, stick to the way we've been playing. Obviously getting on their big guys is, important. Just being physical in general with all their guys is important. So we're going to keep that up. We're not going to, look into that too much, I would say.
And so there's Matty Beniers. He's talking about a lot of different things, including that the team is just going to rely on being physical. And I talked about this on yesterday's show, and we're going to go back to Bob Condor in a minute, but the physicality. Now, if you watched my Game 4 preview alongside the amazing Allison Lucan, who, of course, is a contributor to the Seattle Kraken as a writer, multimedia, kind of does everything, but then also as an analyst on Root Sports, we talked about the physicality. And, if you are an everydayer, that we talked yesterday on yesterday's podcast about the hits. The hits, a franchise high of 52 hits put on the Seattle Kraken, but other things that we have to look at. And again, this is a modge podge of what Allison and I talked about what I've been talking about. Again, for the everydayers, you know that we have been talking about this. And then just looking at the data and the stats. And so let's go back to what Bob Condor is saying here. And you see right here, block shots, hits, and playoff intensity. And so he's talking about some of the players in particular that have led to that 52 tally. Ellie Tolvanen, 8 hits. Brandon Tanev with 6. Yanni Gourde with 5. Adam Larson, 7. Jamie Oleksiak, 6. I love this. And then also block shots. We just heard from Maddie Beniers, but before the series started, when I was in Seattle for that first playoff practice with the team, what Maddie Beniers was telling us was that the veterans, he was asked, what kind of advice is he getting, yada, yada, yada. Some of the advice that he got and some of what they talked about is that's what you do. Hits, blocked shots, being fantastic on specialty teams. That's what you do to show your teammates that you're all in. So here goes a quote from Vince Dunn. Shot blocks and hits are an important part of playoff hockey. It builds confidence in our team, shows we are taking care of each other, willing to sacrifice for each other. And that's what I like, because as the Colorado Avalanche were very willing and have been able to play what I call bully ball hockey, we saw that the escalation, unfortunately, leading to a pretty serious injury from what it looks like and sounds like to Jaren McCann. But you saw that they really were trying to play a more physical game, Colorado was, than they're known for. And my estimation is that that's what they felt they needed to do in order to beat the Seattle Kraken. But particularly in Game 5, the Seattle Kraken were able to bring some of that to their game while also staying within their game. There was a great quote from Dave Hakstol yesterday. He was asked something about, well, a few years ago in the NHL, things would have been handled differently. What do you think about, that, and kind of talking about the fine line between being an enforcer after a hit on your player like Jaren McCann suffered versus, as Dave Hakstol said, it's Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. And the smart play, we talked about this, again, the everydayers, you know this, but I talked about how you're going to have to define that line of delineation between absorbing the contact, giving some of it back, but also using and baiting Colorado into being a little bit more physical on the lazy spectrum, getting them in the penalty box. But then that means we have to ramp up on the power play. So coming up next, I want to take you to what Dave Hakstol said today after morning skate, because he talked about a lot of those elements. Then we're also going to head to Natural Stat Trick. I want to show you just a little bit of the ebbs and flows, if you will, of the series thus far. It's going to be exciting. Not many people thought these were two evenly matched teams, but I talked about it with Chris from Locked On Avalanche. These two teams are not the same, but they're similar. And I think that's what we've seen play out in this series. So I'm very excited for a Game 5. Let me know in the comments if you're watching live or otherwise. Do you think this is a must-win game? Is it a must-win game for Seattle? Is it a must-win game for Colorado? Let me know what you think about that. I sometimes go the more literal route. It's only a must-win if it's an elimination game, but momentum/determination, depending on if you go the Dave Hakstol route or more of the Seattle Kraken player route, is something very interesting. And that's why, for me, Game 5 is a little bit of a toss-up. But we're going to talk about all of that coming up on this episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken is brought to you by Game Time. Now, Game Time is this super cool app that I cannot wait to try. I'm doing some travel to Chicago. And so when I'm in a new city, or even when I'm at home, and maybe I have some free time, something got canceled, or, my team doesn't make it as far into the playoffs, let's knock on some wood there as I had planned. And I have some free time in the evening, and I want to go to a game, or I want to take in a show. Game Time can help me by being the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all kinds of events, sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. Now, you can find killer deals on last minute tickets, and there is a best price guarantee with the Game Time app. So that's right. You find a better offer, then you can hit them up. They will find you the best offer. So you can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, you can just go to Game Time, the Game Time app, use Locked On NHL, and that gets you $20 off your first purchase. So make sure you go download Game Time and enjoy all that your local area has to offer. Thank you, as always, Seattle hockey fans, Seattle sports fans, or just fans of the show. We've got some people that are watching along with us. We've got everydayers who've been with us from the beginning. I'm thinking Striatic and Jeff, just as some DF. I know you join us a lot, but then we have new people joining. Some people that are not even Kraken fans, and that has been amazing. We are building community here, whether you're an everydayer or whether you just love listening to your team every day. You just love listening to me get super excited, sometimes a little bit mad about Seattle hockey. We're so happy to have you. And again, tomorrow's episode, we are going to be focusing obviously on whatever happened today. In tonight's game in Game 5, but there's also another team in the pipeline that's playing Colorado in the postseason. So we'll take you to the AHL and what's happening there. That's right, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, our AHL affiliate, in their inaugural season, they placed second overall in their conference and were able to get into the playoffs and now are in the second round playing Colorado. So, of course, we're going to talk about that. Speaking of the AHL and the Coachella Valley Firebirds, Ty Cartier is going to join the team, replacing that roster spot, of course, that belonged to Jaren McCann. So does that mean we will see the AHL Rookie of the Year or Player of the Year? Does that mean we're going to see him suit up tonight? Well, not necessarily. Here's what Dave Hakstol had to say earlier today about the roster changes.
Where do you think he slots in?
Well, he's available. We've got one decision to make up front. He is available for tonight. He's done a real nice job in not just this year actually in Coachella, over the last couple of years. Throughout his his pathway with us, his development's been really good. But most importantly, he's done a great job down there, and he's earned everything that he's gotten down there. Become a very important player, a guy that is in a lot of pressure situations for them. So he's a guy that if he's in tonight, we'll feel pretty confident that he can go out there. And even though the magnitude of the spot he's jumping into, Game 5 of the first round, that would be I'm sure pretty exciting. But like I said, we'll see by tonight, and if he's in, he's going to go out and do a good job.
I'm not comparing him directly to McCann, but he has a hard shot. He digs for pucks. I mean, are there similarities between?
No, their games are very, very different. I mean, yeah, very. They're different. I mean, Karts is he's a heavier power forward. Obviously, he's got good sense and some nice ability. But no, they're very, very different players. And it'd be tough to compare a guy that's played as many games in the league as Jared has to a young guy coming in.
The power play was able to see the last game. Did you see anything differently about what they were doing there?
Well, we were able to I talked about it after the first couple games. We were able to, get out from underneath their pressure. And, we were able to do it on some initial pucks. We were able to win some faceoffs and get out from underneath the pressure. They do such a good job, in terms of holding the line on entry and then pressuring on that entry that, you have to find a way to break that. And we were able to do that a few times the other night, and that made us a little bit more successful.
So there's Hakstol talking about not only Ty Cartier, but also special teams. And you heard him talk about getting out from under the pressure that the Colorado Avalanche have been laying down. And that's when I want to go to natural stat trick. Now, I love the heat maps here. I love the Corsi comparison here. But the Corsi in particular, I want to show you right now, because look at this kind of flow of the game, or the series really so far. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. But you can see how it's kind of been going up and down and up and down. And yes, the Avalanche, so they're above the line here. The Avalanche really did have some amazing momentum in game 3 in particular. You can kind of see that play out right here. And then that starts to come down, but not all the way in favor of Seattle. But I do like what Seattle has been doing, to Dave's point. We can also see the heat map here. You can see where the Avalanche are getting their opportunities, where Seattle is getting their opportunities. And you can see here, Avalanche, they can shoot from distance. The Seattle Kraken on either side, just, above the hash marks, they have a goal on either side. You can see that it's really that right-hand side that seems to be a focal point for the Avalanche. And so I'm curious to see if and how, we'll get to that in a minute, if and how Seattle can eliminate a little bit of that. But I agree with what Dave Hakstol is saying, that they did make some changes that have boded well for how Seattle wants to play. I think there was, I don't want to say desperation, because again, I believe that the only way it's a must-win game is if you lose and then you're eliminated. So was game 4 a must-win? No, not in my opinion. And we talk about it. If you're an everydayer, we talk about that Dave Hakstol doesn't believe in momentum building from game to game. Players like Jordan Eberle do. Dave Hakstol doesn't. He believes that determination ramps up. Now, maybe this is really just semantics. I just think it's a fun thing to say, because Dave Hakstol, he is not one to allow anyone to put words into his mouth. And you know what? I appreciate that. He definitely has his Dave Hakstol isms, if you will, and determination, not momentum, is one of those. So then the question becomes, do the Seattle Kraken have enough determination to win out game 5 on the road? And you saw a little sneak peek of it, but we're going to get into some stats from NHL.com and their PR team to see a little bit just about what we can expect in game 5s, because it won't be the only game 5 happening. But then also in this particular series, that's coming up on this episode of Locked On Kraken. Thank you for those watching live, and of course, those watching the replay on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to Locked On Kraken. I'm your host, Erica L. Ayala. Thank you for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily routine. I know we've got some everydayers who listen every single day. There's a show. I hope you've been enjoying this amazing ride to the postseason for the Seattle Kraken. I certainly have been enjoying it. Now, I said we were going 6 games. I'm a little bit embarrassed to say what my prediction for the series was at this point in time, but I think you can probably deduce what I said. I will also tell you this. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the movie. See, now I'm forgetting it. A Bronx Tale, I believe it is. There's a character in that movie. I'm from New York, in case you didn't know. Everydayers, you know this. Probably know I'm going to talk about this because I talk about it all the time. But there's a character, and he's known as a mush. So they just call him Mush, or you've been mushed, because anytime he roots for something, it's a guaranteed loss. So let's just say it this way. If things don't go the way that I said, you're welcome, because I probably mushed the losing team. All right. So what does that mean statistically? Not just referring to, movies that take place in New York. What does this really mean? So if you head over to, and this is the tweet about it, but the best 2 out of 3, the rest of the way become between the Seattle Kraken and the Avalanche, defending champions. Who takes the series tonight? Let's get into some stats and facts. Here's what we have to know. We'll get into the overall series, but game 5 trends. Here we go. Team that takes a 3-1 lead, best of 7 series, holds a record. Well, that doesn't mean anything to us because that's not going to happen. When a best of 7 series is tied 2-2, the winner of game 5 holds an all-time series record of 224 and 61, a 786 win percentage. Now, obviously, that's not as good. I know I skipped ahead. It's not as good as a 906, but again, we're not in that. This series is not in that situation. We don't have a team that can go up 3-1 because the series is tied 2-2. So 78, essentially 79% chance to win if you win tonight. I did make a bold prediction, though, that especially after the hit, the Seattle Kraken are going to take game 5. I want them to embarrass. I thought maybe Cale Makar in front of his home crowd. They won't get the chance because the guy will not be skating. But either way, he will return to Seattle. And I do think Seattle is going to have something for him. All right. Anyway, enough about that. Let's go to what the NHL is telling us about this series. Now, the Seattle Kraken have won 10 games in overtime dating back to the regular season. And you should know this if you're an everydayer because we talked about it. I believe it was probably going into game 2. All right. We talked about this or after game 2 because the series was coming to Seattle. That's why we talked about it. The only team in 22-23 with more such victories through that span, the Devils. And we see what they've been doing. I mentioned this earlier on the show. Schultz has recorded a point in each of the first 4 games, playoff games in Kraken history. The last skater to find the score sheet in such a manner, Daniel Alfredsson with Ottawa. Schultz is also just the 4th defenseman to accomplish the feat, joining Jason Woolley, Harry Mumry, and Jean Potiv. For the Islanders, I don't even know what TAN stands for. And Florida. TAN. I have no idea. I can't even think. I'm drawing a blank, folks. Sorry about that. Mikko Rantanen, talked about him as well. Multiple goals in each of Colorado's last 2 games. Definitely keeping an eye on that. He has recorded a 28-55-83 since making his playoff debut in 2018. Only players with more points through that span, Nikita Kucherov and Nathan McKinnon. So he's joining pretty elite company. Mikko Rantanen. Now, does he have enough firepower to keep the Colorado Avalanche afloat as the Seattle Kraken look to dive deep into their roster and get some clutch performances just as they have not only in these playoffs, but in the entire season? We will find out. Hey, Maddie the Queen, one of our people that has been joining us in the YouTube live watch parties. They get kind of lit. I'm just letting you know. Everything from conversations about cereal to heavier conversations about, what an illegal hit is. If a goal passes the goal line, does it count? I know a lot of people got mad at me in the chat, but I was right. Not a goal. And the Root Sports crew agreed with me. Hey there. First time live. Thanks for joining us. Especially with the playoffs, so much news comes in and I want to get you the news as fresh as possible. So I hope to use this format moving forward, but I'm glad you were able to join us. Thank you so much for the kind words. We'll be back tonight. So I have an event. I will be getting ready for that event shortly, but we will be back here. You can watch along with me and see my live reaction. Usually I use the national feed. We might go to Root Sports today, and that means there is going to be a little bit of a delay, but that means I get to hear John Florsland and the crew. So we'll see how it works out. This is interesting because, yes, I have thought of this, and I recognize this account as well has been joining us in the live chats. Not sure if we can get past Dallas. Now, we've struggled against Dallas, and if you listen to, actually, I don't think I put it up on YouTube. That's my bad. But I did an interview with Everett Fitzhugh, and he said the Colorado matchup was a better matchup for us. And so far, I think he's probably right. But yes, there is a chance that we advance. We play Dallas, and yes, agree. They needed to do something regarding that hit. I hear what people are saying. I've seen worse, which, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to put aside how I feel about those comments just for a slither of a moment, because I hear you. And everyone is going to say that, right? I've seen worse. Or why suspend here and not there? Why fine here and not there? I get that. And that speaks to a larger issue with the NHL. But let's not pretend that this is okay. Hitting a guy, intentionally making contact with a guy when the puck is not in play is not a part of hockey. It was a blind shot. He didn't know what was going on. So anyway, like I said, we have adjudicated that one to its extent. We'll probably talk about it a little bit later today. But again, come right here. We'll try and get started around 15 minutes early. That means we can watch the pregame show, which is also amazing. Allison Lucan, who is on the show on Monday, does a great job and has already really given us some stats to think about, which we will definitely talk about tonight. But it's a game day, folks. I've got my rally towel. There's special game 3 and game 4 rally towels that are out there. I got this one for the first postseason practice in Seattle Kraken history when I was there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I said it live with our live reaction show. I do think, especially the momentum or determination, however you feel about it, the momentum is swaying and tilting in Seattle's favor. I still think there are some raw emotions regarding not only McCann's injury on the Seattle Kraken side, but I do think that as much as I want to say personally that could lead to the momentum / determination for Seattle, similarly, the Colorado Avalanche know regardless, they get Cale Makar back for game 6. And the series is split home versus road. So I don't know what I'm saying exactly. I just want you to be mindful of it. I'm not going one way or the other. I said we're going 6, which means that I believe that no matter what happens, we will have the series winner on Friday at Climate Pledge Arena. So we'll see. We'll see how right I was. I wish they had addressed the arm hitting Makar. Yes. Okay. So the Department of Player Safety had addressed. You're right. They didn't talk about the extension. I talked about that a little bit on the show. JT Brown did an excellent job on the Root Sports broadcast talking about that in real time multiple times. But yes, so there was a shoulder to shoulder, that contact immediate, but then also I believe, I'm not going to remember if I'm being honest, but I believe Cale Makar's stick was in his left hand. So his right hand is tucked in close to McCann, and McCann, as his neck whips and his face goes into the board, it's Cale Makar's right arm that goes into him. And yes, that extension alone, no bueno. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But again, talked about it a lot. Yeah, I think, again, there's so many things. I think it was the right thing to review it after. I don't understand completely. And, it was described to me this way, which is interesting. I think the guys on Locked On Avalanche talked about it, but you kick it up to a 5 just because that means it immediately becomes reviewable. But to Striatic's point, the fact that no one's talking about the extension of the right hand, I just don't know. It just seems minimum. However you root, whatever you think, the call was botched. And they talked about this on Root Sports a lot. And so they talked about it on Locked On Avalanche as well. Minimum, what was botched is the interference call on the ice. Right? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that, apparently the only person that knew that the puck was out of play was Jaren McCann. Everyone else, I don't know what was going on. I mean, the fans were you can see it in the shot. The fans getting ready to, or looking to catch the puck. And again, I don't know. I've adjudicated it as much as I can, but tonight we'll be back here on YouTube. I still will have a playback stream up, but we're going to use YouTube as the main stream. Come have fun. Hopefully it stays fun. I do think it's going to be another close game. I can't confirm or deny I will have cereal, but I can tell you that it is a taco night at one of my favorite taco places here in Tulsa. So I just might have some tacos for you. But yes, the next game at CPA, win or go home for someone. Exactly. Next level of NHL playoff intensity, and it will be in Seattle. Oh, baby. Now, I know for a fact I can't even pretend I can travel to Seattle for this one because of some work engagements. I feel like I've mentioned to the everydayers I'm headed to Chicago, and I've got some stuff here in Tulsa, but I cannot wait. And I hope either way it turns out for Game 6, either way it turns out, I want to get some fellow YouTubers and podcasters to talk about this series at its conclusion. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm trying to be careful with what I say, because if I'm going to be a mush, I want to be a mush with what my original prediction was for this series. And I said it was going 6, and I gave the advantage to Colorado. So if I'm going to be a mush, I want it to be a mush on that and not anything else that I might say or feel or have the numbers to prove. So let's end it there. Thank you so much for joining me live here. Like I mentioned, I'm probably going to try this format a few more times just because everything's moving so fast. I want to make sure you have as much up-to-date information when I record the podcast as possible. All right, folks. Hold fast, stay true. Let's go Kraken. Let's hope we get all of our boys in fit form back to Seattle. No more injuries. And let's go. Getting a little mushy. Getting mushy and getting mushed. Two different things. Sometimes they're related though. But let's hope I'm not. I don't mind getting mushy, but I hope I'm not mushing at least Seattle. Hey, let's hope Blake Bolden was on the right side of this Game 6 prediction. I would love to be wrong, especially against Blake Bolden. I'm just glad we're at least in the same vicinity. So speaking of Blake Bolden, I'll tell you a little bit more about Blake Bolden, and you might be hearing from her soon. I've got an upcoming trip. We'll see how things fare for, of course, the Seattle Kraken, but should be a good time. That's right. Go Kraken. Hold fast. Stay true. We'll catch you later on tonight right here on YouTube for our live watching. Until then, peace.
You are Locked